I'm gonna start. Yeah.
The last time I saw you, I stayed in the line for 20 minutes to get candy at that.
Good evening. I call this meeting of the Village of Hebron Council to order at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, November 26th. If you would please stand if you're able and join me in reciting the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wolf.
Here.
Mrs. Stoner.
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Nauer.
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman.
Yes.
Mrs. Porter.
Yes. Thank you. We have quorum. Thank you visitors for attending this evening. If you, we'll just leave that there. Okay. All right. Minutes will be recorded and provided to council for review. Meeting minutes are official once they are approved by the village council by a majority vote. Today's minutes will be made available once approved and posted in this office, the post office, and made available online. I am seeking a motion for approval of minutes for October 9th, 2024.
If I may, Mayor,
Yes,
there's often a question arises if we didn't have a quorum, there wouldn't be enough people to move accordingly. The accepted rule is unless you believe they are inaccurate, you may vote on that even though you were not in attendance.
and I appreciate you pointing that out because we've talked about the fact that it's very possible there could be a time where we actually do not have enough members who perhaps, you know, we have a change in a membership, and then those who are remaining perhaps weren't involved in that particular meeting. I think the expectation is, I think you and I talked about this, even if you weren't in attendance of the meeting, you still should be familiar with what the proceedings were. And you certainly now with it being recorded, you would be able to observe what happened in the meeting and verify the minutes as well. And finally, there's an understanding that you would be comfortable and understand what had happened in previous meetings so that you could vote accordingly, even if you had not been present. Am I stating that correctly?
You are.
And I'm sorry.
Would it be a choice then of the individual to either abstain or to approve?
It's always a choice. But again, to the mayor's point, hopefully there's been a review that you would be comfortable, but certainly you can't compel somebody to vote. Okay.
Thank you. So all that to say, I am still seeking that motion.
I so moved.
Second.
Okay, we had a motion from council member Stoner.
It's okay.
Yeah, and I'll take the second from council president Wolf. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
Mr. Nauer.
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner.
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman.
Yes.
Mrs. Porter.
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Thank you, council. I'm seeking a motion for approval of the minutes for October 16, 2024. Second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Porter.
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman.
Yes.
Mr. Nauer.
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner.
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
Thank you, council. The next item, I'm seeking a motion for approval of the minutes for October 23rd's council meeting.
So moved.
I'll second. Thank you. I have a motion from Council member Carpenter and a second from Council member Chapman. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stoner?
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman?
Yes.
Mr. Nauer?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter? Sorry. Mr. Wolf?
Yeah.
Thank you, Council. And finally, I am seeking a motion for approval of the November 13 council meeting.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion from Council President Wolf and a second from Council member Nauer. Any discussion? Well, it's no quorum, so roll call, please.
Mr. Nauer?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner?
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mrs. Porter?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Each department in the village provides routine updates to village council and the public. Tonight, we will receive an update from Superintendent Ward with the Public Works Department.
Good evening. Hope everyone is fine and dandy. Excuse me. Can you hear me now? The 2024 roadway resurfacing projects have been completed. Stronger with the winning bid came in, knocked out. They always do a superb job. I believe it was 21 and 22. They also won the bid. Municipal complex was, seal coated and striped back in September. The Public Works Department crew stayed and seal coated the trash corral fence out the, police barn. Back in October. Update Canal Crossing has an issue with their sanitary did not pass their flexion testing, so they will have to re-excavate. I believe on Tuesday, December 2nd or 3rd. So Canal Road will be closed for one day. It's a complete closure, so they can get it done, get it out. And they will resurface it again, hopefully much better this time. We've been mosquito spraying, finished the 3rd week of October. We used a total of 52.6 gallons of product during the 25 season. I'm meeting with the Lincoln County Health Department December 16th, I believe, to discuss possibilities of them taking over our control program. It's cheaper. We average probably $43 per lane mile. The county is charging $28 a lane. Half of the high street flower baskets were hit with aphids early August. The rest of the flower baskets were compromised in late August. Wilson's been called yesterday and asked for a color choice of flowers this year, and we are going with red, white, and blue. Our crew works split shifts for the 2024 Pie Fest, emptying trash, helping with vendor and committee member needs. It's a major success. The first annual Halloween bash was also a big hit. All Christmas decorations have been checked, loaded, and are ready to be hung on December 2nd, which is next Monday. We decorated outside here today because it's supposed to be 25 next week. It's 45 and sunny today. Why not? Labor Barrett Skillman and part-time labor Colt Flowers have painted all concession stand bathrooms at Evans and Canal Parks. We've done a lot of work in the concession stands this year. Sinks, fixed water lines, broken water lines, valves, stall doors, toilets. Even added 4 outlets in the softball concession stand to help alleviate some of the workload in the circuits. We planted 32 Norway spruce trees at Evans Park back on November 1st. It's pretty fast growing evergreen, 3 to 5 feet a year. Some can grow 100 feet tall, but most are 50 to 60. I'll give a little windbreak. some screening along that north side of Evans by the football field. A little more of an update on Lincoln County River Roundup. It's 12,000 pounds of trash in Hebron. Was 12,000 pounds of trash. In Hebron, 36 volunteers picked 1,500 pounds of trash, 4 tires from our local tributaries. We replaced 250 feet of storm on Deacon and Sixth, added a few catch basins and drops. Operator to McLeod has ditched Refugee. We've ditched out here on Main Street. We'll continue down through when weather allows. There's a Enterprise Products 8-inch high pressure gas line. We have to call when we're within 25 feet, they have to come out and observe. We can declare log dams. Enterprise Drive has been ditched as well. Water tower on the school administration building's been cleared. And Assistant Superintendent Cooper Ryder attended and passed his inspection maintenance certification for stormwater control measures in Ohio. He now is certified. He passed with flying colors. Any questions?
I might have a couple. The streetlights outage, there's 27, you don't have the one on Broad Street? It keeps going in and out, in and out, it's on, it's off. I didn't know if that was,
We usually have a monthly report. I get them from the police department.
okay,
Sit Broad Street.
yeah,
I'll make
right
a
in front of, well, just.
cat order
My
for you.
driveway, yeah. Yeah, it goes out, comes on and out. I didn't think about it, but I just read that, and I was like, hey, that's 21. All the trees replanted, was that a grant or is that budget or what?
Budget.
It just,
We got a pretty good deal. It was, they were trying to get rid of a bunch of trees. It was Eddie Burke Farm in Johnstown. I budget for tree plantings. And they're
okay,
usually like $400 a piece. We received a deal, they're 127 a piece, I believe. So.
any other questions?
I have one, regarding the aphids and the flower baskets, how do we make sure that doesn't happen again, or is that something that is? Not,
There's a chemical that you can spray on. You just gotta catch them when they first start.
we had them on our willow tree one year, I just didn't realize they can attack those flower baskets also.
Any living thing, any living plant.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
You too. Okay, gonna skip over visitor comments and move on to legislation. First item is ordinance 3024. It's an ordinance to include a new subsection in the codified code section of Title 9, Title 9A, section 945 title stormwater utility. This is the third reading. We had agreed that we weren't quite prepared for this. So I'm asking that council allow this to dissipate into thin air. Okay, I'm gonna let that go. Resolution 2414, a resolution setting the base rate for the stormwater utility ordinance code as codified in section 945 of the Village of Hebron codified code section. Third reading, again, this was prematurely added to the agenda. So I'm seeking no motion. Next item is ordinance 3224, an ordinance to make appropriation for fiscal year 2025 expenses and other expenditures for the village of Hebron, state of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025. Do we need to expedite this given our missed meeting?
I would recommend it just in case something happens in December.
Okay,
When you have another missed meeting, it would be a problem.
okay, and so at that, I'd be seeking now a motion to suspend the readings. Right?
Correct. I will make that motion. I'll second.
So I have a motion from Councilmember Carpenter and a second from Council President Wolf to suspend the readings on ordinance 3224. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stoner?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Nauer?
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman?
Yes.
Mrs. Porter?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Now I'm seeking a motion to adopt ordinance 3224. So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Stoner and a second from Council President Wolf. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Nauer?
Yes.
Mrs. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner?
Yes. Thank you, Council. The next item is ordinance 3324, an ordinance to authorize the employment and appointment of legal counsel for the village of Hebron. This is the second reading. Same song, second verse. Should we press it through? Yes. Okay, so I'm seeking a motion to suspend the readings of ordinance 3324.
So moved.
Oh, second. Okay, I have a motion from Council President Wolf and a second from Council Member Chapman. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner?
Yes.
Mr. Nauer?
Yes.
Mrs. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman?
Yes. Thank you, Council. And now I have, or I'm seeking a motion to adopt ordinance 3324.
Moved. So moved. We just did 24.
We're doing
That was to suspend the readings. So now we're adopting.
I thought we already adopted that. Okay.
I pulled a fast one on you.
No,
there.
yeah, right.
So do you want to be my second?
No, and I'll second.
Okay. I was like, wow, that's pretty definitive. He does not want to do that. Okay, Councilmember Carpenter made the motion. Council President Wolf seconded the motion. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mrs. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman?
Yes.
Mr. Nauer?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. The next item is resolution 2417. It's a resolution authorizing the mayor and fiscal officer to enter into an agreement with the Licking County Board of Commissioners for indigent defense services in the municipal court for the village of Hebron, Licking County, Ohio. This is the second reading. Need we press this through? Last question. If it's an end of the year thing.
It is.
Yeah, so in that case, I'm asking council again, consider suspending the readings on this.
So moved.
Okay, last time I gave it this way, so I'll give it to council member Nauer. I need a second on the motion. I'll second. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Nauer?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Now I'm seeking a motion to adopt resolution 2417. So moved. I'll second. I have a motion from Councilmember Stoner and a second from Councilmember Chapman. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Nauer?
Yes.
Mrs. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner?
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman?
Yes. Thank you, council. The next item we have is ordinance 3424, an ordinance to authorize an increase in the current pay rate by 3% for all employees of the Village of Hebron and to amend contrary and inconsistent ordinances by repealing and amending parts thereof. This is the first reading. We're good, right? Thank you. The next item is ordinance 3524, an ordinance to amend ordinance 2723, ordinance 1224, and ordinance 2724 to provide for adjustments of the annual appropriations for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency. Do we need to suspend the rules on this?
This is for the funds we received from Microsoft. I would like to be able to get them appropriated and send over to the county before the end of the year.
Motion to
To
suspend.
suspend.
I'll second.
So I have a motion to suspend from Council Member Carpenter and a second from Council President Wolf. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Nauer,
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mrs. Porter,
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman.
Yes.
Mr. Wolf,
Yes.
And now I'm seeking a motion to adopt ordinance 3524.
So moved.
I'll second. I have a motion from Council President Wolf and a second from Council Member Chapman. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Nauer,
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman,
Yes.
Mrs. Porter,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Stoner,
Yes.
Mr. Wolf,
Yes.
Thank you, Council. The next item is ordinance 3624. It's an ordinance to amend codified ordinances 937.04C1, water system capacity charges, and 937.05C1, wastewater system capacity charges, and to amend contrary and inconsistent ordinances by repealing and or amending parts thereof. This is the first reading. And this goes back to the discussion about the capacity, the tap fees, I think is what we call it typically. The next item is a resolution to create a source water protection and assessment committee for the Village of Hebron, Ohio. This is the first reading. Thank you, Council. Okay, the next item is council action items. October 2024 bank reconciliation. I'm seeking a motion to acknowledge receipt and review of said bank reconciliation. So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Stoner and a second from Councilmember Carpenter. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Wolf,
Yes.
Mrs. Porter,
Yeah.
Mr. Nauer.
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman,
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item is the ODOT Brine Agreement. Do you want to talk about it or?
It's just for purchasing brine through ODOT. It's. Like, we last had an agreement with them in 23 or 22. It's 8 cents a gallon. Very cheap. The other company we used was out of Heath years past, and they were $1.24 a gallon. So 8 cents a gallon is just an agreement to not hold ODOT responsible.
How much brine have you used?
Last year was 575 gallons.
Really?
We had 4 totes that are 275 gallons each. Don't have to use it very often.
I was gonna say that in a way, it's a waste of. Well, depends what the weather is.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? So we're taking a motion to, thank you, taking a motion to
authorize the mayor to enter into the memorandum of agreement with the ODOT for Brian.
What he said.
So moved.
Second,
I have a motion from Council President Wolf and a second from Council Member Stoner. Any discussion?
roll call please.
Mr. Mountain,
Yes.
Mrs. Porter,
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman,
Yes.
Mr. Wool,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner.
Yes.
Thank you, council. The next item is a TAP application. It's an industrial park path connector. Would you be the appropriate person to speak to? Thank
We
you.
were debating this prior to the meeting, but I'm happy to answer the questions that I can. We've been working with our engineering firm E3 to apply for a TAP grant that would allow us to extend sidewalk or pathways from Route 40 to Capitol Drive to create accessibility to the industrial park and to help with our active transportation paths throughout the village, which is supported by our comprehensive plan. Of course, we need council's approval before that application moves forward because there will be about a 5% contribution from the village, which is looking to be about $59,000 at this point. Anything else I'm missing?
Good.
Okay. I will do my best to answer any questions you may have.
Do we use that for any other sidewalks instead of going that way? Is that concrete or asphalt or?
I don't know that answer. Let me pull out the email from V3. This has not been one of my main projects, clearly, but I have been on the email thread and can do my best to answer questions. Now, what I can tell you is we looked at several different projects that would be applicable for this. And this is what rose to the top based on our comp plan and other items. Material, let's see here.
I was just thinking maybe extend the walking path from 40. Put the walking path in where the old railroad bed was, 40 out to the new one, just got. Just did.
Are you
Through
saying
Canal Park.
through Canal Park? Well, that was at the last meeting. We were successful in securing dollars with LCATS. So next year we'll have money for engineering for that. And then in 2027, we'll have money for construction for that project. So that is happening.
Okay, but you have property owners giving you, because I know.
It'll actually go through Canal Park, not the railroad bed specifically.
Okay,
And right now, part of that property that's owned, close to that is actually, they're working through getting that property in contract and doing some lot splits. So the likelihood of us being successful at this time with that would probably be slim to none, but maybe not later down the road.
The TAP grant, I believe when you do apply for the TAP grant, it has to be specified what particular sidewalk you're doing. So if we were to be granted that, it would have to be whatever was put on the grant application.
And we are running up to the deadline. That's why we had to put it on here and without administrator Chet being
sidewalk going
present.
through the cemetery is still in the process.
So, ODOT was very clear and, another firm we're working on that is gonna have to be explored more and that the likelihood of them providing us dollars for that and then what they make it into when they start that project, adds some complications to it. So we're still looking at that and seeing what options are available, but we were told to shy away from that for this particular grant.
What's the timeline on this one?
So it would be, we are applying at the end of this year, we will know early next year if we would get it. And my understanding is it would be for the following year, the funding would be released, so 2026.
2026, okay.
Mhm.
So
And
it's something that I would budget for when we do our budget next year for 2026.
it looks like you got one pedestrian bridge, but you're coming out of the trailer court. You gotta cross the creek here somewhere.
Yeah, my understanding is some of that will be developed during the design as well, the official design. I know that there's conversations with Southgate too, as well as I'm having conversations with, the property owner directly across from Kroger and what that could look like. So there's still some
Okay.
potentials there when it comes to access.
And I think what we're asking for tonight is just the approval just to apply for the grant.
And maybe I'm looking at the map incorrectly or the image, but it looks like they're taking folks from the east side of the river. From Kroger, let's say they cross the street from Kroger, they walk north, and then they come across the creek and they join with folks who are already on the west side of the river and then head up, or the creek, head up from there. So unless there are two, maybe the issue is that when folks are at the at the trailer park, they would have to come north a little bit to then cross and then come back down. So it's not as direct across, because then we would have to have two bridges, which would bring the cost of the project up another $500,000.
And my understanding with this will allow us to explore those options in more detail and really know what we're getting into.
Yeah, because where the water line runs down across the creek in that vicinity, that's lines right up with Capitol Drive.
Okay.
So according to this, I would say you almost have to have a bridge. We'll see.
Thank you. So we're seeking a motion. Would you like to supply some words on what that motion is?
Authorizing the mayor and administration to apply for a TAP grant.
Right,
For the industrial park path connector.
just what I was gonna say.
I'll second. Okay, I have a motion from Council President Wolf and a second from Council Member Chapman. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Porter. Yes. Mrs. Chapman.
Yes.
Mr. Mallory.
Yes,
Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner.
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. The next item is Hayright's bid award. In your packet, you should have received a list of bidders. There was one. So tough decision there. Are we simply looking for a motion to award that bid?
We did draft legislation code. We draft legislation for that, right?
Historically, yes.
So I need a motion to direct the solicitor to draft legislation to award.
Do we know how many acres is involved?
Do we know how many acres is out there?
Didn't say that on it.
I believe it's 14.
Is that one cutting or two to potentially three cuttings?
Yeah, it's usually 3.
Is this consistent with what we've done in the past? It's not high or low or about the same or? I mean, we've only had one bid, but I was wondering if it was kind of. Can't remember what the last one was.
I believe the last bid was 815, if I'm correct, wasn't it?
So it's in the same ballpark as what we was.
years ago, we had a guy put clover out and he did it because we didn't want to mow everything. And he didn't charge us nothing, but he took the hay off of it. Well, next thing you know, somehow or another, it got changed and somebody else has been bidding on it or whatever, and they've been taking it off. I was on the understanding way back when that we couldn't make money off of Capital Department by doing that, but that's been years ago, so. I don't know if it's legal or not.
I can't imagine it wouldn't be. I mean, it saves the village the cost of.
Yeah, that's what we did. Well, that's why the guy was doing it for free, and then the next thing you know, he finds out that, well, they've already put a bid on it. This is
Yeah,
after several things switched hands.
sure. I'm not aware of any prohibition.
Okay,
Or should this money go to the park?
It goes into the park fund.
Okay, all right.
sorry.
No, don't apologize. Still looking for that motion though.
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second.
I have a motion from Council Member Carpenter and a second from Council President Wolf. Any discussion? Roll call please.
Mrs. Stoner,
Yes.
Mrs. Porter, Yes. Mr. Nauer.
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman.
Yes,
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
thank you, council. The next item is regarding a Christmas tree burning event.
So first, let me say that once we can not be focused on the Christmas market as it relates to community events, we will come up with a much better name for the event. That has not been top of priority at this point, but with the success, I mentioned this at the last committee meeting, with the success of the Halloween bash and the bonfire, and then of course now bonfire pit that we have in Canal Park. The idea was presented by a few of the council members, how to continue to use that space and to invite residents to bring their real Christmas trees, to get rid of them at that location, and we can have a bonfire and then look at some of the nonprofits or churches to provide hot chocolate, and just another way to bring the community together. I know that we have a full event schedule and I don't come to you with every single one of those dates, but anything that involves fire, I would prefer that you are aware that it's happening and approve it. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
I think it'll be worth a try, but I don't see that many live trees coming our way.
I'm thinking there's a shortage of trees. That's a big part of the problem gonna be this year with the drought.
I know someone who owns a tree farm. I'll see if I can get their scraps at the end of the year. But they're usually done with all their tree selling by the first or second week of December, so we'll have to store it somewhere.
We'll look to Public Works for that.
All that space you've got.
Right.
Yeah.
Either that or chip them up and use them for mulch.
Is there hesitation or
What do we need? Okay on that?
a motion to?
Motion to burn them trees.
The fire department is always made aware, they are present for our bonfires, we go through all the safety protocol with the fire department, I should practice that. Just like we did with the Halloween bash.
You're improving on our fire pit, is that right? Yeah, yes,
Was that a motion?
yes, I mean,
I'll second.
I have a motion from Council President Wolf, a second from Council Member Stover. Any discussion?
We have a date. We do that.
Is it the third?
Yeah, we are considering, sorry,
No, I'm sorry.
considering the second, January 2nd, that's a Thursday. So at that point, our planning and zoning meeting is on the 6th. The only other option would probably be that Saturday, which is the 4th, but our weeknight events do seem to do well.
Mr. Carpenter.
yes,
Mrs. Stoner.
Yes.
Mr. Wolf.
yeah,
Mr. Nauer.
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman.
Yes.
Mrs. Porter. Yeah.
Thank you, Council. The next item is downtown parking. All of you recall from last week. We spoke with business owners about the 2-hour parking that we put in place, the locations, the hours that it's in effect, the days that it's in effect, the number of hours that it's in effect, and even the possibility of a 15-minute load unload at either end to help the businesses that have very quick transactional activity. So this is on the agenda in case council wants to move forward with modification. I'm open to discussion.
What's the projected time frame for the pizza place, the new pizza shop?
2025.
We could revisit.
We always can revisit. Do you have more specific detail? Is it early or?
I would say earlier, we just approved their permit here and their Lincoln County has already, approved their permit for their expansion. And then we also have a proposed coffee shop coming in, hoping the first quarter of 2025. That same area.
The coffee shops where?
It will be on the other half of the Centifonte Art Gallery.
Oh, okay, okay.
I say leave it like it is for now.
I like the idea of striping more spaces that are already there to let people know there is more parking. But it's just tough.
So I will share that, was yesterday, one day, it feels like it was recent. I had a dialogue with Mayor, Hall about a million things. And one of the things we talked about was the challenges of parking. And I also attended a Granville, Village of Granville meeting, a few months ago. And they had done a full parking study. And in both cases, they found that the parking problem is more of a walking problem, in that folks, were unwilling to walk, very far. And one of the things that Mayor Hall and I talked about was, he said that they even offered a permit to residents living above the retail units. They ultimately only issued one, and then they instantly, I get the impression they regretted it, but basically the issue was wherever you're allowing residents to park in business spaces, you are eliminating the likelihood that a consumer will stop and go to that space and actually shop there. Mayor Hall indicated that his father used to own a shoe store where we were having coffee at the coffee roasters, and he said it was rule number one: you cannot park in these spaces that you expect customers to come and park and then pay you money. So I think we actually probably have a bit of a culture challenge, because those spaces have been not used for business for a very long time. And I think that's really what this comes down to, is we are moving the goalpost for one of our building owners. And this is a very painful transition. But if we sincerely say that we want to have retail in that space, we've got to provide parking for retail to happen in that space. So, I just want the council to know that I appreciate that you are willing to discuss it more. And again, nothing we do here is final, really, right? We always have the opportunity to revisit an issue. And as the needs of the downtown evolve, you know, when Brittany brings all this great stuff in for us, no pressure. It may evolve again, and the question may surface again. So it's not a failure, it's that we just need to move along with the needs of our community.
There's no such thing as grandfather. I mean, that place has been there for umpteen years. So how can you take?
Because structurally, she has 2 units that are residential, so that's at least 2 vehicles. She has a business, 3rd vehicle, and then she has a business there that needs 3 spaces just for the equipment there. So we're talking about basically the whole south side.
Yeah.
And all of that parking is supposed to house how many businesses? That's the problem.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Years ago, we had there again, the hardware, the
Yeah.
library,
Pitches.
pitches, pizza place, a drugstore,
Burger.
another hardware. I mean, it's been that way for years and years and years. You can't, I don't see how you can change it.
If we can't change things, we don't need to be out here.
Well, then,
But also, we parked on Canal Street too.
Well, yeah,
I mean, you know,
I drove back here, but they've added on since
Well,
then.
no, I understand, well, one of them added ones is actually in the right of way.
Well, that's,
I mean, and that's not here nor there, but what I'm saying is, most of that down through there is in the right of way, which could be parking at one time, and still.
yeah, but I mean, we never had, I don't remember ever having parking problems.
Well, no, but we utilized that Canal Street. And I know when we used to go to Kemper's all the time, that was, a lot of times I parked down there.
And I think it is a walking problem and people, and back in the day, probably walked more. They weren't
Back in the
afraid
day, you walk between the buildings too.
And you had an alley there too.
to- Right, and, yeah, and we're getting to like convenience nowadays, we want easy and quick and. But I do see an issue, is there parking behind trees for her residents? Cause she
There's
says
3
that,
spots.
okay, so they should be parking at the back, so we shouldn't have to worry about the residents out front.
I mean, I don't know that she'd agree with that sentence, but yes.
It is right, you know, if you're a resident, you should be able to park longer than a customer. You know what I mean? If you live there, you have to be able to park there.
But I'm with you, I think they ought to be parking in the back, that's
Right, if there's spaces back there,
exactly right.
and doors and fences.
Technically on both sides of town.
So that's 3 spaces, now you're gonna have coffee shop, and how long are they gonna take spaces down through there, and then you got a pizza shop. Again, so you're adding more and more and more and more.
But their hours should be opposites, coffee being morning, pizza being the evening.
From one end to the other, that's what I'm saying.
Technically, no one has spaces per se. I mean, you know, it's there.
Right.
Well, I mean, technically they do in back.
In back.
Yes.
No, I mean, on Main Street, technically, they don't, just because it's in front of your place doesn't mean that's your spot.
Right. And the place where the old horseshoe pit is, if somebody were to ever fill that in and build something, then we no longer have a walking problem, we now have an official parking problem.
That's a flood area, don't,
Well, you can fill it in and build something. My point in saying this is all of this will continue to evolve. And I think maybe part of our strategy with economic development will be trying to figure out how to target businesses that do not need 5 parking spots. Or they can't be in that space. And then any subsequent requests for making some of these units residential, we can't do that. We can't allow people to extend out these buildings. There's simply just not space. So this council is paying the price of previous administration. It is what it is. But we just need to be strategic in how we're thinking this. And we need to either decide that we're going to support transactional businesses in the front, or we need to be honest with the building owners who are trying to attract renters for businesses in those spaces and say, we're not going to support
You
it.
have a good case in point, because the old hardware stores, apartments, and they're parking in the back.
Well, I don't think there's any perfect solution, but I think the solution that we do have merits more towards more of our constituents than just the less of the 1 or 2 that we can't. And I'm happy for that. What I heard last week was more preferential treatment for oneself and not any concern for all residents and all businesses. So I'm happy to leave it the way it is. I do think that we do need to look at what you're saying, the lining of the parking. And maybe at a later date, a crosswalk there, which allows them to get a little bit closer to the business.
So CJ, the discussion was, putting some type of crosswalk from Maple over, and as you know, there's the, disabled parking, right? So that allows a space that somebody actually could cross and get across. And then the other thing we talked about was introducing marked parking in front of the old administration building and further west. So visually, people who aren't from here would see, oh, there's nothing right here in front of these businesses, but if I just cross High Street, there's more parking. Because if they don't know the area very well, they will not understand that that is actually additional parking available.
Why would it be so bad just to go ahead and mark all the parking? I mean, on both sides going, you know, past the old municipal
Years ago.
building, past,
I was one that
you know,
started that.
Henry Porter's, I mean, do the whole side down through there. That way it gives someone a little, also you can take in front of the dairy bar there, making your white line come around to where people aren't passing you on the right when they're not supposed to be.
Well, they got the sign back up now, so.
Yeah. You know, well, in front of the Duchess isn't marked off either.
There's no room there.
There's no room there because of the turn lane.
Turn lane,
Mhm.
they used to park there
Mhm.
way back when,
Yeah.
they used to park 2 or 3 cars right there
On the north side?
On the south side.
on
Well,
both sides.
South side, yeah.
Yeah, on the
but-
south side, and then right in front of the bank here, they used to park, now they got this turn lane supposedly.
And this might not help in the winter, but in the summer, there's also the thought of adding the bike racks. If we're, extending all our sidewalks and paths to different places.
So, Superintendent Ward and, Administrator Chen and I will talk about what that looks like as far as actually marking out the parking spaces. And maybe even implying those curb cutouts that I want.
And we also discussed the parking map, just like our walking map. Because there's parking over by the green space.
We're gonna start working on that, establishing where we have parking as it exists now and share that with you once we have that complete.
Thank you. Okay. I'm gonna move on. The next item is the employee holiday luncheon. Would you like to speak to that? Yeah, I can. Thank you.
In the past years, most recent years, council's been gracious enough to approve a holiday luncheon catered by Creative Catering. So that's what we're reaching out to see if you would be willing to do that again. And the date that we're looking at is December 12th. And it would be 11:30. And so if you would choose to do that, then we would just ask for a motion to approve that. And of course, council and the planning and zoning board, everybody would be invited as well.
Motion. To approve.
1 second. Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Carpenter and a second from Councilmember Stoner. Any discussion?
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Nimmer.
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman.
Yes.
Mrs. Porter.
Yes. Thank you, council, for that. All right, the next item is council members' reports. I will start with Councilmember Porter.
The item that I have is an invitation. And it's was given to me from Brian Daubenmeyer, who is the commander of the local post here, post 285 of the American Legion. And this is for their potluck party. It's going to be December 16th at 6 o'clock. And he was quite enthusiastic about inviting the mayor and the council and any other employee who may wish to attend. They are asking that you bring a side dish or a dessert or something like that. But I think that it would be nice if we had a nice showing of people who are interested in the activities that do occur at the American Legion. So I want you to please take that under advisement and see if you can make it. I know that's directly after the luncheon that we're having here, so no one should be without food for at least the middle of December. So anyhow, he was quite Brandon, I should say, was quite enthusiastic about inviting the persons within the village, the administration and any other staff person who may wish to attend. And again, that is December 16th at 6 o'clock at the Legion Hall at 108 Water Street. So if you do intend, I have a phone number that you can RSVP to, and the person's name is Rhonda. The telephone number is 614-537-8361. And she herself is a member of the Legion, she's retired from the military.
So they were requesting RSVPs. Is that all? Thank you.
I don't think I'll be singing.
Oh, okay.
That would increase attendance.
Undoubtedly. Councilmember Chapman? Nothing today. Okay. Councilmember Howard, okay. Councilmember Carpenter?
Nothing.
Okay. Councilmember Stoner? Yes, we had another meeting with Deb for the Personnel Committee tonight to go over the employee insurance options, and she's gonna talk to us about that.
Thank you. As council member Steiner stated, we've had a couple personnel committee meetings about the insurance. It's been a little tough this year. As you know, the initial renewal from Anthem was 31%. And we had budgeted 25 in all of our department budgets for insurance. So we had to do some research, and I've been working with our broker and Anthem. We also had the employees go out to Form Fire, and all that information came back. We could get no other quotes from any other insurance company. The only other company that quoted us was Medical Mutual, and it was a 39% increase with the plan not being competitive to what we currently have. So I went to work at looking at all the plans that Anthem had that we could choose from that maybe was at least comparable to the current plan that the employees have, but maybe wasn't 31% of an increase. And looked at a couple, then had to kind of go back to the table. And then we met tonight, and I gave the personnel committee a couple options that I thought was the best after a lot of research. And come to two plans, obviously the renewal plan, and then another plan, which is Anthem as well. But the plan is different in the fact that the deductibles are higher, but then there are some other perks to the plan that make them a little different. One has higher deductibles, the other has lower deductibles. One is a 21% increase versus the 31%. So after reviewing the plans, I feel that the way my recommendation to the personnel committee was to really offer the employees a choice. And we discussed quite a few ways to do that. And I think we left it at looking at offering the employees an option between two plans. If they choose the renewal plan as it is, then they would pay 70% toward their benefits, and the village would pay the 93%. If they chose the other plan that has a little higher deductible, then the village could pay 100% of that. And it gives employees an opportunity to look at the two plans and figure out what might be the best fit. But we just can't afford to pay 100% of the renewal plan. So I'll turn it back over to Stacy and, Councilmember Stoner, and she can kind of maybe talk about what the personnel committee felt about the options.
Thank you, Deb. Yeah, discussing this between, the three of us, and with Deb, of course, doing all this work for us. I think we all felt that it is better to give the employees an option. Most employers do give an option. So this is kind of steering them in that direction of this is kind of where healthcare is going today with, it's, I mean, very rarely is there 100% paid anymore. But they can still opt for this plan, so I think that's kind of where we're at.
And I can give you just a total cost, even with the two plans, the two options, the village would still be paying the same. It would just be the employees would be paying more or out of their own pocket to keep that lower deductible. But in the end of the day, no matter which plan you choose, it's still gonna impact the village financially the same way. And it comes to $645,379.32 a year that we would be paying out toward healthcare.
What was that, 645?
$645,000.
And how does that compare to previous year? Do you know?
Yeah, actually, I don't have the total year, but I can give you the breakdown for the month. For just the medical portion, we were paying 41, I actually do have the total. It was 502,000, a little over 502,000 prior for just medical. And then it would be 611,000 if we went with the option with the higher deductibles, and 657,000 if we, for the 31%, the renewal on that plan, and that's just the medical coverage. That doesn't include the dental, the vision, and the life. In the recommendation that we were discussing this evening, the 7% would just be for the employees to pay toward the medical. The village would still be able to pay 100% for the dental, the life, and the vision, because there was only a slight increase on the dental and no increase on the vision or the life for the 25.
So this is still a 20% increase year over year.
Right, no matter what, it's gonna be, yeah, about 20% increase for the village.
Has it ever been brought up to just have employees contribute towards their insurance? I know we've always done 100%, but like I said, that's unheard of in today's world.
Well, it was an option. One of the options we could look at is that we just rip the Band-Aid off and say, this is your plan and you're gonna have to pay a percentage. And we could have chosen the higher deductible and it would have been maybe a little less, or we could have just done the renewal, it would have been a little more. But I felt that this would be a little smoother transition in to those employees that may have to take a lower deductible plan and pay. And it'll start shifting the mindset that you just can't continue to pay 100% with the insurance costs that we are. Sorry, my voice is crackling. And as I was telling Mr. Unti this evening, we went from a very marketable group to a really unmarketable group within just a year.
Is that because of our size or what changed us, or is it
Just the health conditions of the employees and their spouse, their family, spouses, children.
keeping the same thing? They don't go with pre-existing conditions and they change, they evaluate every year?
There is no pre-existing conditions. That's against the law. So, no, it's just that,
They go each.
yeah. And like I said, we couldn't get anybody else to quote, so we have to go with Anthem. It's just, and there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of plans from Anthem, and I went through every single one of them trying to find the best plan that was the best for the employee and the best for the village. So it's been a long process, but unfortunately, I have to ask for a decision tonight because we do have to get this summed up before the end of the month. Missing a council meeting did, it didn't give me as much time to speak to council as a whole, but we have had 2 meetings with the personnel committee, so I am really leaning on them for their help to maybe help the rest of the council members and the mayor. So,
And we're looking out for the members themselves, give them a choice. It's one or the other. We could, like she said, we could have said, no, you're getting this one. Sorry about your luck. And we figured that brought up, give them a choice.
So you're looking for a motion? And I would make the motion to approve the committee's recommendation to give the employees a choice.
Does that have to be done before the end of this month?
yeah,
So if they
to
have,
choose.
if that motion continues and that doesn't give that
Oh,
time.
no, I just have I just need a decision on what we're going to do. If we're going to give the employees the choice of the two plans, I just have to let Anthem know, these are the two plans we're choosing for 2025. I will have time to go, and my plan is, if that's what council chooses, I plan on scheduling a meeting with every single department. I will go down to every department, sit with the employees and explain the two plans, how we come up to this decision, and give them plenty of time. And hopefully I'll have some literature from Anthem on both plans as well.
And when does that final decision have to be made?
For the employees,
Yeah. If they're choosing Plan A or Plan B.
I have to check if they need that 2 weeks before the first of the year. I'm not sure. I have to check with them on that.
In any event, it's kind of a squeeze thing, you know, we don't, we just have to make this decision and relatively soon, and that includes, you know, the employees have to decide that.
Yes, and it's unfortunate, but rates do not come out to anybody until the very end of the year. And Form Fire takes quite a while to get all the companies to get your information back. So really, I mean, I know the employees may think, why don't you do this earlier in the year? We just don't have that luxury. We are at the mercy of the insurance companies with that. So.
I have one more question. We pay 100%. Do we pay for spouse and family? Is that all concluded 25%?
It depends. Currently we have 5 employees that are employee only. We have 3 employee and spouse, and we have 16 on family for a total of 24 currently.
Okay, because I know like a lot of insurances at work, like, if, you know, if I choose this, it's $5. But if I start adding spouse and family and all that, it goes up like.
It does go up, and
I mean, what the person pays. So we're paying 100%, not only just for our employees, we're paying 100% for their families and their
yes, it's
spouses.
whatever plan they're in. So if they're in an employee only plan, we pay 100% of that. If that's a family plan, we pay 100% of that. And it goes employee and spouse, employee with children only, and then family. And family is, you can have 10 kids, so.
I know a lot of insurance plans, like, if it's just me, I pay $5. If it's me and my spouse, I pay $105. So it's like, it doesn't seem fair that we're paying 100% for people that don't even work here. If they can get insurance from their employee, I think that's why some insurance companies, you know, or employers will say, hey, we're gonna cover you, but if we're gonna have to cover all these people too, why can't they get insurance from their employer?
Can I speak to that? Yeah, so psychologically, I think that employees who have families and who are invested in the village, they perform, right? Like this is part of being in a family environment, and we say in our culture that we're pro-family, and we say in our community that we're pro-family. And we say we want our employees to not worry about certain things so they can focus on their job. So if that's the direction council wants to go, I think we want to have a much deeper dialogue about that, because that's a huge shift in culture for our
Example,
community.
I worked with a gentleman, his wife worked government, so she had good insurance and he declined our insurance at my work to go on her. So the government's paying for both of them, where if he would have been on our insurance, it's double dipping. It's like, if they have to pay a little bit more here, maybe they'll go on their spouse's insurance because it's cheaper. It just doesn't seem right that we're 100% all the way. But I do see family. I mean, you want to cover your kids and that, but like, yeah, if we're cheaper, yeah, spouse ain't gonna get insurance at their work if we're cheaper here.
But, I understand what you're saying, but it also doesn't work that way, because I don't have the insurance here, and I choose my husband's. And we have another employee who knew that it was 100% and choose to pay for insurance to
Right.
go with their spouse. So it's not all the employees look at it that way. So there are employees here that choose not to take the insurance, and it doesn't matter that it's paid 100%. So. And I can tell you that if you move toward this option and the employees would choose the current plan to pay, the employee only, if they're an employee only, it would be a monthly cost of $63.75. An employee and spouse would be $140.13 a month. And then the family plan is $196.80. You would divide that by 2, and that's what would come out of their check. So it's still not, you know, it's still a reasonable amount.
So I believe we have a motion. I don't know that we have a second. Don't we also have to add in the solicitor to draft?
Yes, we would need the draft legislation for the option of, for the payment for the employee cost share. That would require legislation.
It's included in my mind.
I thought that's what the motion was.
Got it.
Still second, thank you. Okay, so I have a motion from Councilmember Carpenter and a second from Councilmember Stoner. Any further discussion? Or do we need, we don't, it's not actually going to require any suspension of rules or anything like that. Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Porter,
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman,
Yes.
Mr. Nauer,
Yes.
Mr. Wolf,
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner.
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Thank you. And you have more?
Yes, more insurance, yay. This is our property and casualty insurance. And this is our renewal every year, and it is the quote, renewal is with the same company, which is our Ohio plan. Last year, our cost was $40,167. Their renewal this year is $47,957. So it is an increase of $7,790, but it is due to, we had quite a few items that did increase that we took on over the year. And it also increased because they had to increase the replacement value on things just because of inflation. So that, and the $7,790 increase is explainable. So I recommend, they are still by far the lowest bid we could ever expect to get. The last bid we got from another company was around 70,000. So this does honor the discount for Lexipol, and it does give us just quite a bit of discounts with the plan. It also includes the cyber insurance. It's a very good cyber insurance plan, which we definitely need. So my recommendation is that we would accept and move on with Ohio plan for 2025. And if you would agree to that, we would need a motion for that as well.
What's the name of the carrier, please?
It's the Ohio plan insurance, and then it's through the agent is Reinhardt, Walters and Danner.
Thank you.
Make a motion to accept the casualty insurance and death.
Second.
I have a motion.
I have a motion from Council President Wolf and a second from Councilmember Stoner. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Nauer,
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Wolf,
Yes.
Mrs. Porter,
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman.
Yes. Thank you, Council.
And then I just want to add, I do have numbers and figures and some of the information that I shared with the Personnel Committee on the insurance. And if you'd like a copy of that, I would be more than happy to share that with you. So, and I thank the Personnel Committee for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you. Councilmember Stoner, any additional items? No. Thank you. Thank you. Council President Wolf?
I'm good.
Okay. Thank you. I'm gonna try to get through this fast, and actually, Director Meissner, I was wondering if you'd talk a little bit about steps. I don't know that everybody has heard about steps. Did you talk about that already?
So you,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, the exercise that we did.
So most of you are probably aware that we're members of MORPC. When I came on board about a little over a year ago, I really took on the role of sitting on the commission and trying to utilize all of the different benefits that MORPC offers the village. They've been a huge help to me on several occasions, lots of training and professional development. the internship pool, the planning pool, which is helping with our design guidebook. They're also just a body that's always advocating for communities, and communicating and updating us on different legislation or just other issues that we should be aware of. One of the items that they had recently invited us to was STEPS, which I will not be able to tell you what it is specifically, what those, the acronym is, but it was strategic zoning. The workshop, both myself, Caitlin, and the mayor had attended. Unfortunately, members of our planning and zoning board weren't available, but we'll continue to share those opportunities with them as they become available. The first portion was a lot of what you would expect, just updates on zoning ordinances, ethics, and open meetings, a variety of different things. But the second portion of it was an activity where we were interacting as if we were the developer. We were looking at a map of a certain area, and our job was to look and figure out what the best use of that space was. But considering different letters from community members and organizations, different funding pieces, there was an entire pro forma where we had to put in if we're putting apartments here versus retail versus office versus preserving historic buildings, and really had to work through the model to figure out how that affected the financial viability of the project. It was an enlightening process for all of us. I will say that the Mayor and I's group did not win, Caitlin's group did. So she was successful in winning that award, but both groups came up with some really great ideas. We're able to see how making decisions about apartment complexes versus, commercial retail or even a grocery store, how that can impact the land use and the highest value of that, but trying to consider the important components that a community needs. Like one big topic in this decision was keeping a homeless shelter, if that was a good idea or not, and where the best location would be for something like that. So I think for us, I don't want to speak for you, Mayor, but I know from my perspective, it really helped me think about what are the things the developer's considering when they're thinking about investing in the village of Hebron, how we can be really strategic to make it a good plan for the developer, but also a great plan for our community. And then really, what are some exciting public-private partnerships that could come out of the future growth and interest that we have in our community? So it was really enlightening for me and my team. Caitlin and I have already had lots of conversations about it, so I really appreciate the opportunity for attending that. And I hope the mayor enjoyed her time too.
I did, thank you. We talked about making sure that we're coming back and sharing the types of trainings that we're getting so that council's aware, so. I'm just
I forgot that we used Legos to do it too, so that was
Yes,
useful.
that was a bonus, that was a bonus.
So what you're saying is if somebody has property, we'll say at the east end of town, you're gonna limit it, what they're gonna sell their property for. I mean, like, Steve's got property here and he wants to put a gas station just out of the wild blue. Are you gonna say, well, no, that's not the right place for a gas station, so we're not gonna let you do it?
Well, to be honest with you, from a zoning and economic development perspective, my short answer to that is yes, but based on our land use map, right? So when we're doing the exercise that we've done for our comp plan, and then as you're aware, we're going to be revising our land use map, I think those are the things we do have to strategically think about. For instance, a great example is the land right across from Kroger. There's been a lot of interest in putting residential there, but the more and more I look at that with the developers, the less and less that makes sense. It's a great commercial space. It's even for manufacturing, it butts up directly to the industrial park. Those uses make a lot more sense when we look at the land use of the village as a whole. We have a lot of opportunities for future residential use. Are we sure that that's what we want that parcel used for? So I think that that's going to help with not only our comprehensive plan and our land use map. I think it's going to help when zoning amendments come forward with planning and zoning, and we can kind of talk about what that should look like. And then there's going to be some parcels that could really be a variety. For instance, if we do extend Canyon Road to 40, that opens up 40 all the way down Canyon Road, that's a great commercial space. Before we considered that, maybe it was just 40 that was the good commercial space and everything behind should be residential. We talked a lot about mixed use. I know you hear that term a lot in our comp plan and when I come up and talk to you, and it's a fad right now, but mixed use is a really great way to develop parcels. So we're bringing income and revenue into the village and amenities, but also supporting housing. And then we get the best use and most use of those pieces of land. So I would say that exercise helped us determine when we're doing the land use map, thinking about how that should be played out. And then also, even just understanding what things they're considering when they're across the table from me, right? Like, of course, I wanna say, yeah, I want a park and I want this path and I want these great things for our residents. But at the end of the day, they're business people and they have to make money and we'd be silly to think that that's why they weren't there. But we can, seeing their perspective and understanding the things and the values that we want, especially through the comprehensive plan process, we can have some really good dialogue, so we're both winning at the end of the day.
Thank you. Just another example is the planning and zoning not agreeing to an asphalt plan. I don't know if you all remember that, just on the other side of McDonald's. I mean, it's technically commercial, right? Like, it's not residential, but it's manufacturing and flavor. It's more gritty and dirty and, you know, maybe not as beautiful, and that would have been a gateway place for our community. So that fine tuning according to the land use map, I think, is just really going to be critical for us to zoom in on how we want our community to look aesthetically. The next item I wanted to share is that we had a meeting. Wait, we did a lot yesterday, but I mean, I'm tired thinking about it. With Southside farmers about what we're considering as far as the overflow or bypass channel. And we're trying to, we also had a meeting last week that included ODOT. We're trying to be crystal clear about our concerns and making sure that the designs that are happening, you know, they're just planning happily away on how they're gonna modify 70 so it doesn't have water run over it. But if they just open that wide up and just let all the waters flood from Buckeye Lake to Hebron, that's going to be highly problematic, not just for us, but also for our surrounding farmers. So we're trying to really develop some good inroads and really try to lean into some harder conversations, but at least get everyone to the table so that we can make sure that we're thinking about this not just from a very transactional, here's where the water goes while it's in our community, but also thinking about downstream, how that's impacting folks, upstream, what we could be doing. I made a very pathetic pitch about maybe we should be capturing outside of the village on the west side. It didn't go anywhere. But all of that to say, I'm trying to spitball, trying to figure out what we can do to find some common ground so we can all speak with one voice. It's also something I touched very lightly with Mayor Hall. If we could align with Heath and Newark, all of that work could really benefit not just us, but really our entire county. So we'll be working on that and thinking about that. If you have ideas or booby traps that you know of, please share those with me.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Have we had any movement or any communication with the Army Corps of Engineers, or has that died again?
It did not die, and actually, wasn't that on Monday too? I think they delivered their final.
Monday morning.
Thank you so much. I have not digested it yet, and I don't know that engineering has. So technically, yes, we have an answer. We just have to translate it into, well, I need it translated into lay terms. But we do actually, it's only 10 months late. I think we were expecting it in January. So
We're
hopefully
getting it in January, just not.
the wrong year. So they're early. But we should know more about that soon. We also held a coffee, donuts and transit meeting. Do you want to talk about it or just? I'm happy to, that's fine, I just wanna make sure. I don't wanna steal your thunder, she's doing all this stuff, so
I'm gonna be
we,
invited back. You keep going.
okay, fair enough. We had a meeting, it invited manufacturing, Lakewood was represented. Township was represented, so what we were trying to do was distill down what questions we should be asking and what research we should be doing to talk about how to populate the stops on the bus route that we're considering with LCATs. I feel I was very clear that I'm not super excited about the thought of Hebron and Buckeye Lake footing the whole bill when it's stopping in New York manufacturing, Heath manufacturing, Union Township manufacturing. But I'm probably not gonna get much traction there, but I'm still gonna say my piece. And if we find that we have a lot of residents who go there for work, I'm great with that too. I just wanna make sure that what we're paying for, we're actually getting benefit from. So we'll continue to be doing that exercise. They're just on the precipice of launching the new Heath route. So right now, they're not paying a whole lot of attention to us, which creates a little bit of release of pressure, but the pressure will build up soon as they focus their energy back to us. And we start negotiating out what that series of paths would look like.
I didn't realize there was a cost. Is it high, low? What is?
It is $40,000 per calendar year
To have them come to Hebron.
to have a Monday through Friday, I think it's maybe 6 to 6 hourly run bus route, although they're talking about having a full 1 hour route during what we would think of as traditional commuting hours. But during the retail hours, so maybe 10 to 2, it could be a 30-minute circuit just down here. So take folks from here to Buckeye Lake, take people from Buckeye Lake up here to go to Kroger, to go to the library, to come pay their water bill, whatever that looks like. So that's what they're exploring with that.
Why isn't that a county thing? Why is Hebron and Buckeye Lake and all that have to?
Pay that.
Well, every other municipality is paying for theirs.
Still?
So why isn't the county paying for the entire thing?
Well, at least have something to do with it. I mean,
They're paying the bulk of it. We're just paying a portion of it. And Buckeye Lake is paying the same that we're paying.
Going to pay if we accept it, or is it already a done deal
It's already in your budget.
for this coming year?
If it doesn't fly, we don't have to keep it. So let me say that, right? If we find that folks aren't using it, but adoption has been pretty good in the county. So I would anticipate that it would be used. And the thing that we talked about from a manufacturing perspective, if this creates transit for residents who cannot get to work, especially if it creates reliable employees that often have difficulty with transportation, this could be a game changer for some of our residents and our employers.
That's one.
The next item I wanted to share with you is that, we will be having, training for council. This will be designed specifically for council members in the village of Hebron. And, it's being designed right now. I've already had a meeting with, CFO Morgan and also our clerk of council to talk through typical things that council members need to know, challenging things that we need to know so that we're doing our motions properly, or if we don't have quorum, or what should we do with regard to meeting minutes if we don't, if we didn't attend, what are the appropriate things to do? Also just making sure that we feel confident about how we're executing our duties up here. So that will be in the coming months. I don't know how quickly it will come to fruition. We had quite a laundry list. It's the training I wish I had gotten when I first got on council. So be prepared, bring your pencil and your notebook. We'll know more on dates in the future. The next item I wanted to mention is I'll be looking for your desired committee assignments for next year very soon. So if you want to reflect on that in the appointments as well, if you want to move, or there's something you're particularly interested in. I know for me, I often wanted to try things I hadn't tried before, but you might be the opposite. When you're comfortable, you're comfortable. So if you could just look at your committee assignment and decide if you want to stay there, that would be very helpful to me. The other thing I want to say is, I know it's hard when we don't have quorum, like we had to do emergency legislation tonight, right? But I want to be really clear that it's so much better for you to not come if you're ill. Because we don't need to get each other sick, and then we're definitely gonna miss meetings. So I appreciate, I know it's a hard decision. I know every one of you personally, and I know that you take your duties here very seriously, for which I'm very thankful. But if you're down, you're down. And I just thank you for being conscientious about that. It's very important, so. That is what I have for mayor's report. Again, no visitors. And unless otherwise noted, it's understood, council members have reviewed the expenses report provided and have no questions. Please note the upcoming meetings and events at the bottom of the agenda.
I had a question.
Yeah,
On the expenditure review list, tax refund, is that include residents? We have that many refunds this year? I don't remember seeing that in the past. Is it usually that? It's like 67,000 for one.
It is refunds, tax refunds. I can't say
It's
that.
not here, yeah.
Well, no, we couldn't say.
Oh.
It's confidential. I can't say if it's an individual private business, but they would tax refunds.
Is that average? Is this, like, it just jumped out at me being really high? but-
We budget every year, we have 200,000 and we haven't went over that. So we're still under that.
thank you. Anything else? All right, seeking a motion to adjourn. Motion from council member Porter, second from council president Wolf at 7:31 p.m. to adjourn. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wolf,
Yes.
Mrs. Simon,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Patton.
Yes.
Mr. Pleasant.
Yeah.
Thank you, council.